That 100% real cheese label on your favorite brand? It's legally allowed to lie to you. I spent 47 hours digging through FDA loopholes, and what I found in 7 popular cheese brands made me throw out half my refrigerator. One of them is probably in yours right now. Look at that package in your fridge. Go ahead, I'll wait. Notice how it doesn't say cheese anywhere on the front? That's not a design choice. That's the law. Kraft singles legally cannot call themselves cheese because they contain less than 51% actual cheese. The FDA has rules about this stuff, and Kraft couldn't clear the bar if they tried. So they settled on pasteurized prepared cheese product. Rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it? Here's what you're actually eating. Milk protein concentrate, a cheap powder often shipped in from countries with dairy regulations that would make American inspectors nervous. Sodium citrate, calcium phosphate, sorbic acid. Each slice packs roughly 250 milligrams of sodium. That's before you even add the ham. And the processing? These slices get blasted at temperatures exceeding 180 degrees Fahrenheit. Every beneficial enzyme, every helpful protein that real cheese offers, gone. Cooked right out of existence. But here's the part that got me. France would literally make it illegal to sell this as cheese. Their AOC food protection laws wouldn't allow it within 100 miles of the cheese aisle. Meanwhile, it's America's best-selling cheese. We're number one at something, I guess. Those individual plastic wrappers create another problem entirely. Each slice sits in more plastic-derived packaging than almost any other cheese format. Researchers are now raising questions about microplastic ingestion, so we've got a product that isn't cheese, processed beyond recognition, wrapped in plastic, and banned in France. And Velveeta? Somehow even worse. Now, here's where things get really interesting. Velveeta calls itself liquid gold. I call it liquid chemistry experiment. The second ingredient? Milk protein concentrate. Back in 2006, the FDA actually tried to ban this stuff from cheese products. They said it didn't belong. But the dairy industry lobbied hard, and guess what? It stayed. Your tax dollars at work, folks. That famous melting quality everyone loves comes from sodium phosphate. Sounds harmless enough. But here's the thing. Sodium phosphate binds to calcium in your body. Over decades of regular consumption, some researchers believe this contributes to bone density problems. Not exactly what you want to hear when you're already watching your calcium intake. And get this, Velveeta doesn't need refrigeration until you open it. Why? Because they've processed out every living culture that makes real cheese actually perishable. Nothing alive survives in there. Traditional cheddar has 4 ingredients: milk, salt, enzymes, cultures. Done. Velveeta, 18 separate ingredients. I counted. The product started in 1918 as a way to use up broken cheese wheels. Smart recycling back then. But every decade since, the formula has drifted further from anything resembling actual cheese. Oh, and the sodium? 410 milligrams per 1 ounce serving. That's nearly 20% of your daily limit if you're over 50 watching your blood pressure. 1 ounce. That's basically a sad little cube. But Velveeta isn't even the sneakiest offender on this list. That honor goes to something marketed directly as healthy. All right, here's where marketing gets sneaky. Sargento balanced brakes sound healthy. The packaging screams wellness. But crack one open and count what's actually inside. 8 to 12 grams of sugar per tiny package. That's almost 3 teaspoons of the sweet stuff hiding next to a pitiful half-ounce of cheese. The dried cranberries? Coated in sugar? The chocolate drops? Obviously sugar. You'd get less of a blood sugar spike from eating a small cookie. And here's the kicker. Cheese is naturally low glycemic. It's one of the few snacks that won't send your glucose on a roller coaster. But Sargento took that benefit and buried it under candy. The cheese itself isn't innocent either. They add annatto coloring and something called natural flavors, which, by the way, can mean almost anything. Clinical studies have linked annatto to digestive issues in older adults. Not exactly what you want from your afternoon snack. Then there's the cellulose powder they sprinkle in. Sounds scientific. It's wood pulp, literally sawdust approved by the FDA to stop cheese from clumping. Zero nutrition. Just filler taking up space in your stomach. My doctor told me to eat more protein as I got older. These snack packs have a sugar-to-protein ratio that would make a nutritionist cry. You're basically eating trail mix that went to finishing school. But Sargento isn't the only brand playing games with what's really in the bag. Walmart's Great Value shredded cheese takes mystery ingredients to a whole new level. Great Value shredded cheese. Walmart's pride and joy. And by joy, I mean a bag of mystery dairy that costs less than a gallon of gas. Here's the problem. That stuff contains up to 4% cellulose by weight. What's cellulose? Wood pulp, literally sawdust from trees. Premium brands use around 2%. Walmart said, "Hold my beer." Now, the FDA says it's safe. Fine. But I didn't wake up today wanting to eat a tree. The sourcing situation gets worse. Walmart's supplier contracts change constantly. One month your cheddar comes from Wisconsin. Next month? Who knows? They switch farms like I switch TV channels during commercials. No consistency, no traceability. Just whatever's cheapest that week. And those cows? Many come from industrial operations still using RBGH growth hormones. Canada banned it. Europe banned it. America said, "More, please." But here's what really got me. Independent lab tests found Great Value cheddar contained 8% less protein per serving than the label claimed. 8%. That means something else is filling that gap. And they're not telling you what. The shredding process creates another issue. More surface area means more oxygen exposure. More oxygen means you need stronger preservatives. Enter natamycin, an antifungal medication. The same stuff doctors prescribe for eye infections. Now it's keeping your taco cheese fresh. At $2.50 a bag, you're paying for shortcuts. Real aged cheddar costs farmers more to produce than Walmart pays wholesale. Speaking of sneaky marketing, wait until you see what Laughing Cow pulls. Each Laughing Cow wedge gives you just 2 grams of protein. 2. A real cheese serving of the same size delivers 7 grams. So what exactly are you eating? Mostly water and emulsifiers. That spreadable texture everyone loves? It comes from polyphosphates. These chemicals grab onto calcium and don't let go. For anyone worried about bone health, that's a problem. You're eating something marketed as dairy that might actually interfere with calcium absorption. Here's how they make it. They start with skim milk, add milk protein concentrate powder, then put cream back in at the end. It's like taking apart a car, losing half the parts, and reassembling what's left. Cost-cutting disguised as innovation. And that foil wrapper? Aluminum can leach into soft cheese, especially when trucks sit in warm warehouses during shipping. Nobody talks about this. The French invented Laughing Cow back in 1921. Want to know why? Cheap protein for soldiers. It was never meant to be health food. It was military rations with a cute cow on the package. But watch any commercial today. They're targeting seniors with portion control messaging. Just 35 calories. Sure, but with only 2 grams of protein, you'd need 4 wedges to match 1 slice of real cheddar. At that point, you've eaten more emulsifiers than actual nutrition. My grandmother kept these in her fridge for years. She thought she was being healthy. She wasn't. Now, if Laughing Cow seems questionable, wait until you see what Borden puts in their American singles. Borden. Now there's a name that sounds trustworthy, old-fashioned, American. But here's what they don't advertise. Borden sources milk from conventional dairies, pumping cows full of RBST. That's recombinant bovine somatotropin, a synthetic growth hormone. The European Union banned it. Australia banned it. Japan banned it. Canada said absolutely not. America? Still totally legal. And that pretty yellow-orange color on your Borden singles? That's not from happy cows eating grass. That's annatto and artificial dyes literally painting industrial cheese to look farm fresh. It's makeup for dairy. My grandmother would call that false advertising with extra steps. Gets worse. Borden filed for bankruptcy in 2020. Since then, the brand has bounced between investment firms like a hot potato. And investment firms care about one thing: profit margins, not your health. Each slice contains modified food starch from corn. It's a cheap binding agent that dilutes actual dairy content. You're paying for cheese and getting filler. Consumer Reports tested Borden products recently, found sodium levels higher than what the label claims. If you're watching your blood pressure, that's not just annoying, that's dangerous. Here's the legal loophole. American cheese can contain up to 49% non-cheese ingredients, almost half. And Borden pushes right up against that line because it protects their bottom line. Not yours. The brand name says tradition. The ingredient list says cost-cutting. But wait until you see the next one. Cheez Whiz might be the most shocking of all, and I mean that literally. Cheez Whiz might be the most honest lie in your refrigerator. Why? Because it barely pretends to be cheese anymore. Flip that jar around. The first ingredient? Whey! That's the watery stuff left over after you make actual cheese. Second ingredient? Canola oil. You have to scroll down past water, milk protein concentrate, and a parade of chemicals before you find anything resembling real dairy. So what you're eating is basically flavored oil with a cheese costume. Here's where it gets wild. Kraft invented this stuff in 1952 as a convenience food. Back then, it actually contained more cheese. But over 70 years of recipe tweaks later, original taste testers wouldn't recognize what's in that jar today. The signature gooey texture comes from sodium alginate. That's seaweed extract. Not cheese making, not aging, seaweed. And that radioactive orange color? Thank Yellow 5 and Yellow 6 for that. These artificial dyes have been linked to attention problems in multiple studies. Europe requires warning labels on products containing them. America? We just squirt it on nachos. 1 tablespoon gives you 430 milligrams of sodium. For 2 measly grams of protein. Most potato chips have better numbers than that. But here's the truly disturbing part. Cheez Whiz can sit unopened for years. Years! Because bacteria literally won't touch it. When even microscopic organisms refuse to eat your food, that should tell you something. Now, after all these problematic brands, you're probably wondering, does any mass-market cheese actually pass the test? Now here's where things get interesting, because not all cheese is a science experiment gone wrong. Organic Valley isn't just a brand. It's a farmer-owned cooperative. 1,600 family farms, all working together without some corporate boardroom squeezing them for cheaper milk. And that matters more than you'd think. Their cows actually go outside. Revolutionary concept, I know. At least 120 days per year on organic pastures, eating certified organic feed. No mystery grains, no pesticide residues showing up in your cheddar. But here's what really sets them apart. No RBGH, no RBST, no routine antibiotics pumped into the animals. Third-party testers verify this at every single member farm. Not just once, regularly. Want to know where your cheese comes from? They publish annual reports showing exactly which farms supplied the milk. County-level traceability. Try getting that from Great Value. The ingredient list: milk, cultures, enzymes, salt. That's it. No cellulose padding. No preservatives with 12 syllables. Just cheese made the way your grandparents would recognize. And the nutrition actually delivers. Studies show pasture-raised dairy contains 50% more omega-3 fatty acids than conventional. Your heart notices the difference, even if your taste buds don't. My doctor started recommending grass-fed dairy years ago. I thought it was health food nonsense. Turns out, the science backs it up. Quality costs more. But you're actually getting cheese, not a chemistry project. Speaking of farmer-owned brands that take quality seriously, one Oregon cooperative has been doing this for over a century. Here's the thing about Tillamook. They've been doing cheese the right way since 1909. That's over 115 years of Oregon dairy families putting their actual names behind every block. Not some corporate board in a Manhattan skyscraper. Real farmers. Their sharp cheddar sits in aging rooms for a minimum of 9 months. 9 months! Meanwhile, those processed brands we just talked about? They skip aging entirely because time costs money. Tillamook says too bad. And they banned RBST back in 2005. That's almost 20 years before it became trendy marketing speak. They weren't chasing consumer trends. They genuinely didn't want that stuff near their cows. Now here's what really impressed me. They run their own quality testing lab right there in Oregon. Milk trucks show up, and if the load fails their standards for protein, bacteria, or antibiotic residue, rejected. Gone. No second chances. Consumer Reports keeps ranking them in the top 3 national cheese brands. Year after year. For taste, texture, and ingredients that you can actually pronounce. But my favorite part? Their slow-churned process. Most manufacturers strip out the natural milk fats, then reconstitute everything later with cheaper substitutes. Tillamook preserves what nature put there in the first place, makes digestion easier, especially for folks whose stomachs have gotten pickier over the years. Solid choice, right? Well, there's one more brand that might just top everyone. And it comes from an island where cows spend 312 days a year outside on grass. Now, let's talk about the gold standard, literally. Kerrygold comes from Ireland, where cows graze outdoors on fresh grass 312 days per year. American cows, lucky to hit 150 days outside. The difference shows up in every bite. See, Ireland's rainy climate grows grass packed with beta-carotene. That's why Kerrygold looks naturally golden without a single drop of artificial coloring. No annatto, no yellow 5, just grass-fed cows doing what cows are supposed to do. But here's what really matters for folks our age. Independent lab testing found Kerrygold contains significantly higher levels of vitamin K2. Never heard of it? Most people haven't. K2 tells calcium where to go in your body. Bones? Yes, please. Arteries? Absolutely not. Pretty important distinction when you're trying to keep your ticker happy. The ingredient list is almost boring. Milk, salt, cultures, enzymes. That's it. 4 ingredients maximum in their aged cheddars. My grandmother's recipe book has more complicated instructions for toast. And the Irish government actually verifies their grass-fed claims through annual audits. Not some marketing department making promises. Actual government inspectors checking actual farms. Yes, Kerrygold costs around $5 per block. More than processed stuff. But you're getting 3 times the protein density and measurably better fatty acid profiles. Sometimes you really do get what you pay for. So there you have it. 7 cheeses to avoid, 3 worth every penny. Your body will thank you for knowing the difference.